Okay, so last year, and I'm gonna read it out to you, right? So we had used the domain. Okay, so domain, you should have done domain and range when you did quadratics last year and parabolas. So the domain is what x values can you use? Okay, so what x values can you use for the graph? Okay, last year, this is almost always XER. Okay, so what we do when we're doing domain, I'll write this after. Okay, we do XER, so we do in brackets XER, so that means X is any real number or element of the reals. Okay, and then what you do after, I think that's probably right in there. Okay, and then you usually state your restrictions if there are any. Okay, so if there's already any restrictions, we would state them here. Okay, then we have the range. So the range is the same thing, except for our y values. So domain is what x values can we have, if we can't have all of them. And for the range is what y values can we have if we can't have all of them. Okay, and I'll go through these, how to write them out again with you guys, because you probably or most likely forget how to do that. Okay, so we have functions and then we have something called a relation. Okay, so we can go through this. It's a set of ordered pairs. So every function is a relation, but not every relation is a function. So what I mean by that, I'll do that with examples. Okay, so if each x value has only one y value attached to it, it becomes a function. If it's not, it's just a relation. Okay, and again, I'll go through some examples to explain that. Okay, so relation, a set of ordered pairs. We could do graphs, mapping diagram. We could have a list, table of values, and so on. Okay, a function is a special relation. Okay, this is the key part here. For every value of x, so every value of x, there is only one value for y. So every x value has only one answer for y. Okay, so an x value can have two answers. So for instance, if I had an x value of 1, I can't have 1 and 2 and have 1 and 3, because that means this x value of 1 has two answers. Once it has two answers, it's not a function, it's just a relation. And again, I'll go through some examples below. Okay, so we're going to go through each examples. Okay, there is 7 of them. We're going to state if the relation is a function, and then we're going to do the domain and range. Okay, so what we're looking for when we're doing the first two, does every x value only have one y value? Okay, so you guys can use your microphones and tell me, does each x value here have only one answer for y? Yes or no?
Yes.
I'm just going to turn my volume up. Okay, does every x value only have one answer for y? Okay, again, a couple S, yes. But be careful. Okay, so let's look at it. So here we have x values from -2 to +2, okay? But we have two -1s here. We have two -1s. So we have two -1s for x's, and they have different answers. So that means for x equals -1, it has two answers for 2 and 3. Okay, so that's the case. This is not a function because x at -1 has two answers. It has the answer of 2 and 3. So this one's not a function. It is a relation, but not a function. Okay, that was it. We started off with kind of a trick question. Okay, now our domain. Okay, when we're listing out, if we have a table of values and it asks for the domain, all you have to do is you just write out the actual values. So the domain represents the X values. So what we're going to do for the domain is just list out the values. So we have -2, we have -1. You don't have to write -1 again, okay, because you don't need to repeat yourself. So -2, -1, 0, and 2. Okay, so if a table of values is given, you just need to list out the values for X. Okay, so our domain is -2, -1, 0, sorry, -2, -1, 0, and 2. For the range, we do the same thing. We list out our Y values. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so that would be the domain and the range for the first one. Again, so it's not a function because we have two -1s and they have two different answers. Okay, B. Does every X value have one answer for Y? Yes or no? Yeah, a lot of yeses, yes. Okay, so it is yes here. Oh, I had one no. It is yes, because each X value has its own Y value. It's okay if the Y's repeat, but it's not okay for the X's to repeat. Okay, so this one, your X is repeated, so this is not a function. Our X values do not repeat here. Okay, so there it is a function. Okay, they can have the same answer, but they're two different X's, so it is fine. So this one is a yes. It is a function. And again, when you're doing domain and range, you just list out the values. So our domain, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So list out your values for X. And this is the case when we're doing table of values. And our range, same thing, we have 2. We don't need to write the 2 twice. So it's just 2, 6, 8, and 10. And I apologize because that question is probably right in the middle of the glare. Okay, I just want to scroll up just for a minute, talk about something I kind of skipped over. Forgot to mention this part right here. Okay, for a graph, so if we have a graph, we could do the vertical line test. Okay, so what the vertical line test is if we draw a vertical line, so vertical mean up and down. Okay, so if we draw a vertical line up and down, it can only touch the graph at one point. So if I draw a line up and down through the graph, if it touches the graph at more than one point, then it's not a function, okay? Because that means the X value will have two answers. If I could draw a vertical line and it only touches one point, then it is a function. Okay, and we could draw that vertical line anywhere on the graph. And I'm going to show you with some examples. Okay, so going to C now. Okay, it's probably very tough to see all the points. Okay, but there's a variety of points along the graph. Okay, so question, is this a function or not? Let's see if you guys get this. Okay, 1, 2, 3 no's. Good, it's not a function. And because if I draw a vertical line, so vertical line went up, so through here it only touches once, it'll touch once here, once here, once here if I draw a vertical line. But once I get to where x is positive 1, if I draw a vertical line through here, it touches 3 points. Since it touches more than 1 point, it is not a function. Okay. I know the vertical line test, if you drew it at different points, it would only touch 1, but that has to be true for the whole graph. Okay, so but if we drew a vertical line through x is 1, this x value of 1 has 3 answers. It has an answer of 1 and -1, then it has 1 and -2, and then it has an answer of 1 and -3. Okay, so that actually has 3 answers for the 1x's, so this is not a function. Okay, domain and range, again, since these are just points, just like the first two, these are just points, we list out the actual points. So domain is your x values. So we have 1 for -4, we have 1 for -3, we have a point for -2, for -1, 0, +1, +2, +3, and +4. So it's a lot of points. So we have x points from -4 all the way to +4. Okay? We can connect that and say it's from -4 to +4 because it doesn't have any decimals. So since it doesn't have any decimals, we actually have to list out every single point. Do the same for the y. So our y values, I'll start from the negatives. So we have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. See if you guys a minute on that one. Just gonna stop the video and restart it.